and welcome once again to another episode of the Horizon Roundtable. I am Bob McDonald, and you can find me on Twitter at Bob McDonald, and with me is my co-host Jimmy Lemke.
Hello, everybody.
And Jimmy, of course, is on Twitter at PantherU, and you can follow the podcast on Twitter at HorizonRT. Jimmy, week 2 of the Horizon League schedule is in the books, and we're only down to one undefeated team, and if you all guessed Green Bay, congratulations, you're a winner. Sit down, you are all lying. Well, no,
Green Bay, I will say this, Green Bay, we were talking about this more in the podcast, sorry, Green Bay had the easiest road to 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I mean, and the wins are against Milwaukee, Youngstown State, and Cleveland State, and we'll talk about Cleveland State a little bit later on, because man, that is not looking like a good scene over there. It's also still a safe scene because they still don't have an athletic director. They still don't have a permanent athletic director, and they won't for any time soon. So still a safe scene.
That's not problematic of their team right now. I mean, that's more of a long-term issue. I mean, Felton's got the team, working. I mean, they had a couple nice leads this week. They looked
for them,
good.
I guess.
Yeah.
Good for them.
I had an alum text me during the Cleveland State game. He showed me the win probability.
Yeah.
And there was a point that the State's win probability on the Thursday game against Milwaukee was in the high 80s.
Yeah.
And then it just tanked.
Yeah, and that is. That happened against Milwaukee with you, and that happened probably. I think they were up by 14 against Milwaukee, and they were up similarly by double digits against Green Bay, and I guess that's what happens when all you have to rely on is Tyree Appleby, which I don't understand either, because and maybe that's not true, but it seems true. Or I don't know. It doesn't matter. Literally, none of this matters, because no matter what happens, Dennis Felton is around next year. No matter what happens, they could lose every single last game this year. I'm not saying they will.
I don't necessarily think Felton's a bad coach or anything. He doesn't have a lot to work with,
I keep hearing that. I mean, okay.
It's a little. I don't know.
There's a lot. I've literally heard I've been following Cleveland State around for, as you know, for many, 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 many years, and literally every single excuse I have heard about this year's team, I have heard so many times before. I want to know what the difference between now and every other damn time was. What's the difference between now and when Mike Garland was coach? What was the difference between now and when Rolly Massimino was coach? I want to know what the difference between now and when Mike frickin' Boyd was coach. What is the damn difference? I'll tell you what the difference is. Half as many people are watching them at the Wolstein Center. That's the difference.
Well, yeah, but you're going from 80 to 40, so is that really that big of a drop? It's all relative. First thing I want to say about Cleveland State, Tyree Appleby, I love his game.
He is great. He's the only one doing any. It seems like he's only doing the only one doing everything. Granted, against Green Bay, Rashad Williams had himself a good game again. I wish that Felton would create a play for him where he's not shooting 3-pointers all the time. I'd like to see the rest of his game. That would be awesome.
Apple got one thing going for him that most of the conference doesn't have. Actual thing. $1.99 Long Island's and half-price apps after 10 o'clock.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You go to the sample.
I was wondering at what point in time we're going to make an actual Applebee's restaurant reference. And by the way, it's $1 Long Island iced teas. I know this, and or whatever it happens to be.
$1.99, most of the time, I think one day a week after 10 o'clock is $1.
I don't know. My sister actually is a manager at one of the Applebee's here in the area. She tells me about all the specials before they actually come out. And, it's actually
in Milwaukee, in the suburb I'm from, West Allen.
Yeah.
There until this summer. We got an Applebee's that kind of replaced this old place called Johnny V's.
Okay.
Johnny V's used to be open 24 hours a day, and that was the place you could find kids that weren't old enough to drink in the middle of the night.
Oh. Okay.
And Applebee's has kind of taken that mantle because they're open until 1 o'clock or whatever it is.
Something like that, yeah.
I will tell you, one thing I love is Applebee's, like the VFW Post, is a place where you can go and get just obliterated for $10. Great. They provide a service for this country that I don't think really talk about all that much.
Looking at you millennials.
Salute you, Tyree Appleby, and your restaurant.
Now I know we're yeah. I mean, obviously not the reference we were making with that, but you get the idea.
Talented kid, he can handle the ball, which is something that I didn't think would be really something that should be questionable at a Division I level, no matter what conference you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous. Like, I spent most of my time as a fan of Milwaukee having got most of the players can't handle the ball.
Yeah.
Hell, Jeter didn't have a legit point guard until 2010, 5 years into his tenure. Ricky Franklin, who's my age, by the way, if you're in the Milwaukee area and need electrical work, Ricky Franklin is an electrician now. He's got his own business.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah, but Ricky spent his entire college career playing out of position. He was playing point guard because he had to. He didn't have anybody, So he could handle the ball. That was he could handle. He could pass, but he should have been a shooting guard for most of his career. He just was a point guard by default.
Sure.
And this is just something that a lot of players have to do, play out of position, because ball handling is a lot rarer than I thought it would be. And Appleby's one of those guys that can handle a ball.
Yeah. Although I'm pretty sure, if I understand it correctly, the end of the Milwaukee game, that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I mean...
yeah, that was... Yeah, what did they get, 12 turnovers in the second half? And, I mean, come on, man. I don't...
I wasn't trying to get to it, I wasn't trying to...
No, I mean, we brought it up. I mean, it's just the same old shit at a different season, man. It's with the exception of a 5-year... With the exception of about, 6 or 7 years in the Gary Waters era, it's been the same old shit every year. We're a young team, we're learning how to win, blah 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 blah. Come on, man. Find a different excuse or something. I don't know. Find a different excuse, or and I don't get it. I honestly don't get it, because I look at this team and I do not see this team doesn't scream learning to win to me. It doesn't scream to me blow double-digit leads. It doesn't scream to me bobble the balls,
You'd like to see progress.
I don't.
Basketball.
How am I supposed to see progress when, I mean...
I've seen it with Cleveland State. We've seen it with... And there's regression going on with a lot of the teams in the conference. I
hear that... And this is my favorite one. Cleveland State is always a better team in February. Okay, great. Then what the fuck am I watching it for? I could have spent November to February doing literally anything else. Thanks for just writing off the season, writing off 3/4 of the season. What kind of fucking answer is that, dude?
Or at least you didn't score 14 points and a half.
No. Not this time.
1 point in 16 minutes.
1 point in 16 minutes, which is what Milwaukee did against Youngstown State.
We actually had a worse one a few years back. I think it was 6 years ago. I want to say it was was it the NCAA tournament year?
Yeah.
It was 12-13. There was a point where Milwaukee scored 8 points on the road against UIC.
Sure.
In half.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
If somebody remembers which one it is, tweet it at me so I remember the year.
There you go.
But God, that was ridiculous. Thankfully, I had not made the trip of that game, and that was the fucking worst.
Sure.
I texted one of the coaches after that game and was like, "What the fuck?" he's like, "Yeah, we want to know you. What the hell?"
Speaking of progression and regression, Milwaukee is a curious case, obviously, but that brings up the question of Youngstown State now.
Pat Baldwin's never been a head coach before.
Yeah.
Which I'll go into later after your Youngstown State thing goes.
Well, no, I mean, here's my question, because you have a Youngstown State team that for whatever reason likes being in overtime but doesn't like to win in overtime or pretty much do anything in overtime, because they've been in overtime a couple of times this season, once in the non-conference, and I'm pretty sure they lost by double digits, and then once against Green Bay and they lost. So, but then of course they go into Milwaukee and beat the brakes off the Panthers. So, I mean that lends to the question of their progress as well, because let's face it, Jimmy, we're in a situation right now where the two guys who are doing the podcast may not have their teams in Motor City Madness.
Oh God! Oh.
What the? Yeah, I know it's a little early to be thinking about that, but this should be the thought that wakes us up at night. That we're going to go into Motor City Madness, and you and I are basically going to be sitting there saying neither of our teams are in here. What the hell? I mean, Jesus! You know what? I swear to God, if Cleveland State and Milwaukee don't make it to Motor City Madness, I say fuck it, just give it to Matt Dudek. Let Matt Dudek and Carrick Jones, do the freaking podcast the entire time during the tournament. I mean, I swear to God, give us a a week off. And you guys can go do it. Enjoy. We don't have a horse in a race anymore.
That could have somebody from like Northern Kentucky or what Wright State people start doing this podcast.
Yeah, well, let's do that. Yeah,
Goddamn wrestling.
It seems it's just this is a long slog. This has been a long slog for both of us, man. Slog for both of us.
I can get it with how you're talking about like Felton. We have through another year.
Yeah.
I can understand it.
Well, because you're in the same boat as we are. You're in another year. I mean,
but at least I can say with Pat Baldwin that he's never been a head coach for.
Yeah.
So this very well may, he's just getting his feet wet. It's taking him time. He's gotten some good recruits.
Yeah.
They've got a couple kids sitting this year who will be great, who should be players. So there's cause for optimism. But and I have the experience of being here when Jeter was going through the same thing.
Sure.
9-22 year for Jeter. It's kind of what Pat Baldwin's got going on right now. Like he had a mostly empty cupboard now that his all of Jeter's players and the one really good LaVall Jordan player are gone since Jeremiah Bell left, transferred, and then the last almost all of the players Jeter had transferred out or graduated. The Prall's graduated, and Brock Stell and Bryce Henze transferred out. I don't really count LaVall Jordan's recruit August Haas, that kid who played here. Nice kid from everything I can gather. Can't dribble with his left hand.
That seems problematic.
So I don't care very much about it wasn't a big deal to me to lose him, but losing what we did lose, this is kind of an empty cupboard year for Pat Baldwin. So I would look at this as people want to be impatient.
Sure.
Because it's been 5 years since we've been to the NCAA tournament now. And it's been 8 years since we've won a Horizon League Conference regular season championship. So people are getting impatient. And when I was a sophomore, when I was a junior, and I was still very fresh-faced about being a fan of a mid-major program, I was begging people at Milwaukee to be patient because you don't build something like this overnight.
No.
I knew it because people told me it. I knew that it would take time. So many sports franchises, and this is professional, this is college, are run under the impression that the coach, when things don't go wrong, you just replace the coach, and that'll be some panacea to fix everything eventually. That's just not how it is. That's never how it is.
No.
It's never gonna be like that. So you have to be willing to sit there and be patient and take your time, because the people who are working that job and trying to do the job of building a program need more than just about anything. They need time. Dennis Felton is different from Pat Baldwin in that we know what kind of coach Dennis Felton is.
Yeah.
So there is a,
not to mention the fact that he has an actual track record of success too.
Right. Pat Baldwin, we don't know. So I'm going to defer. He was hired by a person that I strongly dislike.
Obviously.
And for reasons that we've covered a billion times.
Yes.
So if anything, I should have a reason to not want to be patient with this guy and fuel this, this feeling of disappointment and disregard for, giving this person the time they need to get it done and giving them the benefit of the doubt that this is a bad year. But I'm not going to do that, because one thing that our program has way too much of, and I suspect it's the same over there, is there's just too much negativity.
Yeah.
And people see that and they feed off of it.
Well, not anymore. I mean, come on. I mean, it's not even negativity anymore. It's not even negative. We've gone way past negativity. It's like Thanos just snapped his fingers and made half the fans disappear. Seriously. That we've gone past the point of negativity and to just out and out apathy.
Right.
And, I mean, that's the part that scares the shit out of me. Because, the people who are talking about, at least on the Cleveland State end, the people, by and large, the people who are talking about Cleveland State right now, we ain't getting any younger. I mean, we're not getting any younger, and I challenged you to find me a group of Cleveland State fans that are under the age of 30 right now. This used to not be a problem. I mean, it was a problem, but it was not a bigger problem than it is now. But, and again, I disclaimer all of this by saying again that no matter what we say or what, however pissed off we get or however impatient we are, the bottom line is no matter what happens and no matter what excuse gets thrown around that I dismiss entirely or not, I don't know. maybe there's a new one that comes up. Dennis Felton is going to be the head coach at Cleveland State next year. Period. He's not going anywhere at all. And maybe it's because, and it would have been the case it actually would have been the case whether Mike Thomas had left as AD or not. Either way. But I'll tell you this much, next, but to that end, we're still talking about, we're in the beginning of January, and I'm talking about next year. Like, I got, do I have something to look forward to? I don't know. I mean, my sole driver to actually watch a basketball game anymore is Tyree Appleby. That's really about it. And occasionally Rashad Williams goes off for like 5 to 9, 3-pointers, which is pretty cool. But other than that, what else is there? I mean, they're not going to go 0-18. I don't think they're going to go 0-18. I don't need a repeat. Yeah, I hope not. The last thing I need is a repeat of 2003, 2004, where what I call the Viking death spiral, where they lost 21 games in a row. I don't need that. I don't need that drama.
Let's move while we're here. Let's move to something a little brighter.
Yes, please. Let's.
Oakland after beating Northern Kentucky. Oakland for real.
I don't know. See, it's funny you mentioned that, because we talked about the last episode. What did I say? I said Northern Kentucky was going to lose a game that we didn't expect them to lose, and 2 days later, Oakland comes in and beats Northern Kentucky.
Could you say that we don't expect Milwaukee to win a conference title this year?
Definitely is not expecting Milwaukee to win a conference title this year. I'm sorry, I'm still on the fence on whether or not.
Everybody, January 6th, 2019. Bob says he doesn't believe it. Oh, we'll see it.
I don't believe it. I'm still on the fence that they'll even make it to the tournaments, the conference tournaments. So conference title for Milwaukee's going to be a little shaky here, man.
I'll say Milwaukee will win the conference tournament.
Okay, well, there's always two sides to every coin there. So, but yeah, Oakland now and again.
I just predicted it, so we got to get you to predict this and make it happen.
Oh God. Okay, go ahead.
You should say right now that Cleveland State's going to win the conference regular season championship, and we can indeed,
After all the shit I just said, you want me to predict that they're going to win the conference championship?
Obviously, you predicted that Northern Kentucky was going to lose a game they shouldn't lose, and then it happened.
Yes, but also keep in mind, I also said a bunch of other shit over the last few episodes that didn't have that the opposite happened. Like I thought when at the beginning of the season, I thought Wright State was going to be in a much better position that they were in, and they certainly are not. We'll talk a little bit about them too, but yeah, and a bunch of other stuff that the opposite. I thought I also predicted that IUPUI could be a potential spoiler in the conference, and look what's happened to them. I'm not honestly, we can hang our hats on the one thing that I did actually predict that came true, and then of course you can also check tape to make sure that there's like a whole crap ton of stuff that I just obviously just pulled out of my ass. So, but yeah, so back to Northern Kentucky losing to Oakland beating Northern Kentucky. And I've said this over and over again. Oakland is kind of really a hard team to pin down, because they won pretty handily against both Cleveland State and Youngstown. And I guess as we mentioned last episode, our question was whether Oakland was better than we thought, or were Cleveland State and Youngstown State just Cleveland State and Youngstown State. We turn around on Thursday and have probably the upset, probably the conference, the upset, probably one of the bigger upsets you're going to see in the conference this year.
I know. Yeah. It was a huge upset.
I know. Yeah. But so Oakland going in and beating Northern Kentucky. Now, and we could, it's interesting, and this is amazing to me that this is absolutely, with Oakland, it's always some other, and this has been the case for most of the season. Whether or not because we've talked about kind of their non-conference and kind of getting that unpredictability, but you see you're always having another. It's actually a similar situation to Green Bay, where they always have some guy stepping up. And against Northern Kentucky, it was Xavier Hillmays, who got 32 points, just went off on. But you also had you when you have a team that you have the ability, and again you had three others. You had Javen Cumberland, Braden Norris, Harris and Kamari Newman. All of them were in double digits. You know, when you have the ability to have a team that can always have a team, have at least the potential of having 3 or 4 guys go off for double digits and have one of them just go nuclear like Hill Mays did. I think we may very well be underestimating Oakland. I may have been underestimating Oakland for quite a long time.
You very well may.
Yeah. But again, I guess I can't even say it's underestimating because I've said from the outset I don't know what to make of this team. And maybe again, I think we've talked about this. Maybe it's because of the way they performed in the non-conference. Maybe they just decided, Greg, and you mentioned it, Greg Campy had just decided in the non-conference we're just going to tune everything up and just work towards the conference schedule, which threw me off because that's not what, I thought of it from a standpoint of, okay, Greg Campy is Greg Camp, so I figure he's got something up sleeve. I didn't know, I couldn't put my fingers on what though, and the end result, it appears, is that win against Northern Kentucky. Now, of course, then they come down to earth and lose to Wright State. So and that's actually a question of my own as well. Is that you have Oakland who pulls the upset and then turns around and loses by double digits to Wright State. I'm a little confused on that one.
Right.
And I guess that's the question. I guess that's kind of the question. That loss notwithstanding, I don't necessarily think that Oakland's hit their ceiling yet.
I don't think so either. I think that they're like any Campy team. It's really just starting to get going.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're just starting to mesh.
Yeah.
And in the past years, when they've done really well in the non-conference, they've also been able to do what they do in the non-con because, well, they are, how would I say this? They're like very talented. They've got so much talent they can just get past it.
Yeah.
They don't have as much talent on the team as they have in past years. So he has to figure out ways to get the team to perform well.
Yeah. So it's kind of a new thing for him because remember, in years past he's always had that one guy to kind of rely on. Last year was Kendrick Nunn, and then you had Kay Felder. This year it's a group of guys, and so it's any one of them could.
Ain't none of them Kay Felder.
It doesn't seem to matter this year. It doesn't seem, at least not as far as the conference schedule is concerned. It doesn't matter.
Well, you can get away with not having a guy like A. Felder.
No, not if you got guys who could, not if you got a guy, if you got a group of guys who any one of them can step up at any given game. Any given game, it could be a Braden Ortis. Any given game, it could be Javen Coverland.
Yeah.
Any given game, it could be Xavier Hill-Mays. Any game, it could be any of those guys. Hell, Brad Brechting could go off. So, I mean, that's, that's kind of
exciting, the podcast like this.
Yes, there you go. Oh, wait, yeah, well, and he's coming to you next week there, Jimmy, because Oakland's hosting Milwaukee on the schedule on Thursday, so that ought to be interesting.
Will it?
From an Oakland standpoint, it'll be interesting.
The Panthers are 301st in the country in field goal percentage, so I'm pretty sure that's going to be, just a kind of whack job beat down, but...
I don't know what to tell you on that one.
Bigger hit.
So,
we have a team that relies on outside shots and can hit an outside shot.
That seems problematic. At least, I'll give Cleveland State that they can at least hit outside shots. So yeah, you might be a little more screwed than Cleveland State now that I'm thinking about it.
Milwaukee's got 2 ball handlers, and one of them, Carson Warren Newsom, is for some random reason in the doghouse right now.
Oh, lovely. I mean,
I don't understand where Pat Baldwin comes from in a lot of the decisions he makes. He plays guys. He's got Jake Wright.
Yeah.
Who threes, kinda, but kinda can't do anything else.
Gotcha.
And he doesn't shoot threes all that well.
Gotcha. Okay.
He's not shooting 50% from three, is what I'm saying. Like, he can't handle the ball. He's a complete liability on defense, and he's a fifth-year senior, so there's no chance of developing him into something like Cody Wickman was. So what's the point? Why?
I don't know.
Why? There's every player on Milwaukee's roster, except for Darius Roy.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what their role is. Amir Allen is a guy that I like to see play, but I see him hovering around the perimeter a lot when he shouldn't. I see Will Sessoms probably should be hitting the interior more.
Yeah.
But we really don't have any bangers. Like, none of these guys are bangers. They're all soft.
Wow.
You remember Jimmy Ayers?
Oh, yeah, I remember that guy.
He could shoot threes.
Oh, yes.
But he couldn't, he really wasn't a rebounder, and he was generally soft. And I'm not talking about he was a chubby guy and being, a big dude, he was soft around the middle. I mean, like, he played soft.
I mean,
with his body, he should have been.
He drove me crazy, because here's this guy, this big dude, chucking threes, and it's like, and I every time I saw him, I'm like, this dude can't jump 3 inches off the floor, and he's just beating you with threes.
I'm just saying, he's a guy that he could shoot threes.
Yeah.
So, and very well. So he was absolutely worth a roster spot.
He was probably one of the, and funny enough, he is actually one of the, as crazy as it seems, the shooting made him one of the better players on that roster during the time he was there.
He was pretty good. I mean, he was but like he had reasons for being like outside.
Yeah.
And we got too many like guys who like are soft in the inside, but also can't really, but are like not really good 3-point shooters.
Yeah.
They're kind of de facto like interior. There's so many ill-defined roles on this team. It's hard to really see like what spots people are supposed to play at. Who's supposed to be here? Who's supposed to be being developed? It's
whereas literally everywhere else you see kind of the thought process at the very least.
When they have that Lucas kid who transferred from Illinois transferred from Illinois, Tajon Lucas from next year, when he comes in, they'll have really nice 2-guard set in Lucas and Darius Roy.
Yeah.
They'll have talent, but like who the hell is supposed to be playing inside? Vance Johnson is not.
That's the part. Great. Yeah, I did notice that Milwaukee has this situation where they have a bunch of 6'8" guys. Like, I mean, which may be okay for the Horizon League, but I mean anywhere else, not really.
Well, 6'8" is good length. I mean, Tybee was 6'7".
Yeah.
Tybee was also a bull in a china shop, and he was going to shit all the time. Like, he was always banging down low and pushing people around. I mean, maybe I got, maybe I was spoiled by having a guy who would just beat the crap out of anybody who was in front of him.
Yeah.
And even he would like play a little more outside than I'd have liked him to, but it was also setting up his professional career, so I got it. But like, what is Vance Johnson doing on the court? Like, I don't.
Okay.
Johnson, like, he doesn't have a role.
Yeah.
And and I was reminded of it at the Green Bay game, but it's always good to get a nice reminder that the guy who would be the best player on the team right now is playing for Green Bay. Like, it sucks to get that reminder.
Yes, Jaquan McLeod.
Right, like, holy crap.
Yeah, now we mentioned at the beginning of the episode that we talked about Green Bay having the easiest route to 3-0. Now they too will be making their way to Michigan, and I think that's going to be I think the Oakland and Detroit Mercy games are going to be a good test for Green Bay for them.
I still have a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
How Green Bay is a week from now.
Yeah, I do see them getting past the Detroit Mercy unless Antoine Davis goes off for 50 points again. But I think that Green Bay Oakland game, I think that's probably going to be probably the most interesting game of the week. Yes, I know Wright State and Northern Kentucky are playing on Friday, but I really am intrigued to see that Green Bay Oakland game. I think that's going to be the game that I think everybody should be watching. Poor schmucks who all like myself who bought ESPN Plus. I like to see how that game shakes out, because I think that one's going to determine whether I think that one is going to be a test, the first test I think of both Green Bay and Oakland. I think that's going to be a really good matchup. And then of course I say that one of them gets blown out, so then I'll be massively disappointed. And of course my jinx will have continued. Yeah, so
I'm with you. And we're looking at this is where is this conference at? Green Bay Oakland is going to give us a good shake, because we're pretty sure Northern Kentucky probably just had a brain fart in Oakland.
Again, as in one of the only times I'm ever have a prediction right where they lose a game when I said they were going to lose a game we didn't think they were going to lose.
And I wasn't bothered at all by Wright State not performing well in the conference, non-conference. Like, I know that they're going to be there.
I mean, I think Wright State still has some kinks to shake out, because Yeah, because
lucky for them, they've got a coach that's really good at fixing things.
I'm not liking their chances again. I'm personally. I mean, as much as I like to think Wright State is as good as Northern Kentucky, I'm a little concerned about their chances at BB&T Arena against Northern Kentucky. I think Northern Kentucky wants some revenge for last year, so it's gonna be an interest. It'll
be a fun game to watch. That's for damn sure.
And it will be. That's the one that's going to be on ESPN2 or ESPNU. I don't freaking remember.
It's Wright State Hate Week in Cincinnati, everybody.
It certainly is. And it's Wright State Hate Week, and our good friends over at the Valhalla Vanguard, who got burned like toast against Oakland, are looking for some revenge. So good luck to you guys.
Yeah.
So,
it's going to be a great week of basketball, guys.
It really will be. I think it really will be. I know we didn't talk very much about Detroit Mercy this week, but yeah,
we'll talking about them this week because I'll be fresh off playing them.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, I know you will be. You will get your you will get your first look at Antoine Davis, and let me tell you something. That kid's something. That kid is definitely something.
Yeah, I look forward to getting Breeze rained down upon us.
Oh yeah, he's gonna go. He's gonna have a couple of good games.
If you had fantasy basketball in the Horizon League, if we were still doing that league, Antoine Davis would be the guy to play this week.
You're damn right. Absolutely.
Well,
yeah. So look out for Antoine Davis going off on Milwaukee. I don't think he'll hit 48, but he might come close. I don't know. Might get bored and start throwing assists to everybody else. Maybe throwing assists to Josh McFawley and make you look silly. I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, that's kind of how it should be. It's going to be an interesting week, and again, I think the Green Bay Oakland game is going to be a barn burner. I really do. So, and of course, I say that and I'm freaking wrong. So if I'm wrong, I blame myself. You guys can come blame me.
All right.
So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. As always, you can find episodes of the Horizon Roundtable on sportshax.com, hax.com, and you can find us wherever you find your podcast, whatever podcast app you happen to use, whatever device you happen to use, be it Amazon, be it Google. We have our YouTube channel up, obviously, via Sports Hacks. So, if you happen to have your YouTube channel set up on your TV box for, Roku or whatever, you pull it up there. So, you've officially ran out of excuses to listen to the show. I mean, seriously. Even listen to it if you have to.
Other than, you don't want to listen to our terrible voices.
Yeah, well, no, that's a bad excuse. No, that's not even an excuse. No, you can't, watch it. Hate listen if you have to.
It's more of a legitimate reason than an excuse.
Whatever, man. All right, so that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for listening.
All right, have a good weekend, everybody.